There is a silent presence in the sky, one that has always accompanied our existence. It doesn't speak. It doesn't move. It doesn't shine with its own light. And yet, for thousands of years, it has governed rhythms, emotions, and thoughts. We call it the moon, and we've grown used to seeing it up there, suspended, like a forgotten lantern. But what would happen if we stopped taking it for granted? Because the moon is not just a celestial body. It is an invisible force shaping our reality. Much more than we are willing to admit. Every night its face changes. It swells, it shrinks, it disappears. Some say it's just an optical illusion, a game of shadows. But hidden in those phases is an ancient power that still touches biology, the ocean, and the mind. The seas, for instance. Every wave that crashes against the shore is the result of a gravitational embrace. The moon, despite the distance, pulls Earth's water toward itself. It doesn't just lift it, it moves it. Tides are the heartbeat of the ocean, and the heart beats silently following its command. But if the moon can move billions of tons of water, what could it do to the fluids inside the human body? We are mostly made of water. Our blood, our brains, our cells. Is it just poetic to think we might feel its passage too? Or is there something science has yet to fully understand? The ancients knew, or perhaps they sensed it. The word lunatic comes from the belief that the moon could alter human behavior. And even though modern science often mocks this idea, some studies tell a different story. In certain hospitals during the full moon, there's a slight increase in cases of insomnia, epileptic episodes, and aggression. Some psychiatric wards increase surveillance. Many inmates become restless. Emergency calls rise. It's not a rule, not a certainty. But it happens often enough to raise questions. In nature, the moon is a clock. For some animals, there's no sunrise or sunset, only the moon's phase. Sea turtles, crabs, coral reefs, their entire life cycle, reproduction, migration, follows the moon's dance. Even trees seem to respond to it. Sap rising and falling in sync with lunar tides. And us? Scientists have discovered that the human menstrual cycle often aligns, at least partially, with the lunar calendar. It's a subtle, imperfect synchronization. But it's not random. The human body seems to remember something the mind has forgotten. The moon doesn't only affect the physical, it shapes the symbolic. For centuries, humanity has assigned it deep meanings. Femininity, mystery, renewal. Its pale glow has inspired poets, mystics, astronomers, and also fear. In many cultures, the full moon is linked to transformation. Werewolves, visions, madness. As if the white light reveals something the waking mind usually represses. As if on lunar nights, something in us becomes more real. Ancient mythologies across the world saw the moon as a deity. In Greek mythology, Selene drives her chariot across the night sky, watching over the sleeping world. In Hinduism, Chandra governs not only the moonlight, but also the mind, emotions, and creativity. The moon was not passive. It was alive, a guide, a witness, a mirror of the soul. There is also a connection between the moon and sleep. Some studies show that even in completely dark environments, people tend to sleep worse during the full moon. It's not the light. It's something else. A resonance? An evolutionary memory? No one knows for sure. Even our way of measuring time comes from the moon. The month, mensis in Latin, originates from observing its phases. The lunar calendar predates the solar one. It's cyclical, not linear. It doesn't describe a march forward. It tells of return, of spirals. And maybe that's the moon's true secret. It doesn't teach us to move fast, it teaches us to return, to observe subtle changes, to respect cycles, to understand that beginnings and endings are not opposites, but echoes. In agriculture, lunar planting is still followed by thousands of farmers. Plant with the waxing moon, harvest with the waning. Some call it folklore. But the results often speak for themselves. The moon has even influenced architecture. Some ancient temples and monuments were aligned with lunar cycles. Structures in Egypt, Mexico, and Cambodia show precise positioning to capture moonlight during solstices or eclipses, as if entire civilizations once understood something we have forgotten. In our inner tides, the moon reminds us that nothing is stable, that everything swells and recedes, that even our minds, like the ocean, have high and low tides, moments of clarity, moments of confusion, surges of inspiration, sudden withdrawals. And yet, despite all this, its presence remains invisible. We no longer look at the sky. We don't notice its phases. We've lost the sense of its influence. But what if it disappeared? Without the moon, Earth would wobble. The axis of rotation would become unstable. The seasons would spiral into chaos. Tides would shrink by 70%. Animal migrations would be disrupted. Nocturnal ecosystems would collapse. And life as we know it might no longer exist. It's just a satellite, a rock floating in the dark, and yet it holds everything in balance. It's an elegant paradox. What is mute, distant, and seemingly passive is actually what orchestrates the deepest rhythm. That's why when night falls and the moon rises, it's not just a white disk. It's a collective memory, celestial code, a pendulum measuring the invisible breath of reality. And perhaps even if we don't notice, every time we dream, every time we feel restless, every time we sense forces we can't explain, we are not alone. Something up there is watching us and guiding us, silently, always.